$1.6 billion. That is the amount of money that poured into the Bitcoin spot ETFs over the past 2 days. Now, are we back? Is Bitcoin going to skyrocket to a brand new all-time high, or is there something else that's about to happen? In today's video, we'll be talking about this, going over the most recent Bitcoin price action, what do I think could be happening next from a trading perspective, but also what am I doing with my spot portfolio? If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So first things first, from a trading perspective, I have been essentially trying to short the top. Now, some of you might not like this, but this is ultimately my strategy when Bitcoin is going all the way up into resistance. I tried to go ahead and short this top. I secured a little bit of profits, and then I got stopped out at break even. I tried to also short this most recent top. Right now, I'm currently sitting just over $6,000 in profit, and I'm more than happy to get stopped out at break even if Bitcoin is to continue moving higher from here. The probabilities are actually in our favor for Bitcoin to go ahead and move higher, just as a matter of fact. Now, I want you to understand something. I am not a perma bear. Some of you think that I just want Bitcoin to go down, but as seen by my trades, I have been longing Bitcoin since essentially right below $83,000, and I have maintained this position in the market. So to all of you that are new to the channel, please understand that I don't hope Bitcoin goes lower, I just trade the probabilities. When Bitcoin was absolutely dumping, no one had the balls to go long right around $80,000 because everyone was calling for much lower levels. But the probabilities suggested that we would see a significant bounce from this zone, and some of you might like to call it knife catching. Ultimately, I entered that trade. I'm still sitting in some very nice unrealized profits. I took a little bit more profits off of the table, but I will continue to maintain this position if Bitcoin is to climb higher. Now, in the short term, what do I think could be happening here? Because Bitcoin is approaching key resistance. We cannot ignore this fact. First and foremost, we're at the top of this range, and we're getting very close to the bull market support band. Now, if you haven't been following along, the bull market support band typically acts as resistance once we've confirmed that bearish trend. And yes, whether you like it or not, we are in a bearish trend. This is the previous cycle where Bitcoin essentially went ahead, dumped massively, found support, and then we got another move up right to the bull market support band. Now on this topic, some of you have been asking me, what is my invalidation if Bitcoin is to continue going higher? What happens if we do get that super cycle? Well, my invalidation is quite simple. If we get multiple weekly closes above the bull market support band, that would tell me that Bitcoin is willing to go higher than just this band. So let's take a look at it in today's price action. Right now, Bitcoin is essentially sitting right below the bull market support band. And if I go on the 4-hour chart, you can see that we did indeed break outside of this range. But I am not getting too excited. Don't get me wrong. I would love for Bitcoin to just absolutely skyrocket to $200,000, $300,000, $1 million, as so many of your favorite influencers have been calling. But what I want to get across here is that the probabilities are simply not favoring this. The trend is still very much down, and I will trade the trend accordingly. So, as we approach this key resistance, you can see that this bull market support band, which acts as resistance in a bearish trend, is approaching. As I'm recording this video, we are just below $97,000, and the bull market support band stems from around 98.5K all the way up to around 102.5K. So if I get the opportunity and the price action is looking relatively weak, I will be entering a swing short from around these levels. Now, this isn't your sign to just go max short. Nothing that I discuss on the channel should be construed as financial advice, and if you didn't know already, I am not a financial advisor. There's a big disclaimer in the description down below for you to read if you haven't already. I'm just a guy on the internet sharing his own trade setups and his overall crypto market insights. But if Bitcoin is to make it up here and we start stalling out, and we start to see, for example, that the volume is slowing down, because right now this is what we're getting. We're seeing those initial signs of exhaustion. You can see that the volume from that previous high has slowed down. If this continues, then it's highly likely that Bitcoin will be experiencing a correction. Now, will this be the massive correction that I'm hoping for? For example, Bitcoin dumping to below $80,000, because I still think that this is likely to happen over the course of this year. Maybe not. Maybe we just get a retest before moving higher. But ultimately, from a risk to reward perspective, just like I entered from the lows here, entering a swing short around this level, if we get the confirmation that we need, is a high risk to reward setup, and I will play the market that is right in front of me. Some of you can't handle that from a spot perspective. I completely understand. If you're not a trader, then simply don't trade the market. But I just don't want everyone to get their hopes up if Bitcoin is to, for example, tag $100,000 and then all of a sudden we get a massive rejection. Guys, we've seen this story unfold time and time again. I've been in the crypto space since 2017, and it is absolutely devastating for people that are sold the dream that Bitcoin will just absolutely skyrocket from here and there are no invalidations for that. What would you do if Bitcoin got rejected? Ask yourself that question. For me, if Bitcoin is to move higher and we get those 2 weekly closes above the bull market support band, I am happy to pivot my stance because yes, I do hold Bitcoin and I do hold Ethereum. Now, on that topic from a spot portfolio perspective, I am more than willing to sell some of my Bitcoin as we approach the 100K level because yes, I did accumulate most of my Bitcoin sub $30,000. So this is something for you to consider. In the bear market, I will be extremely vocal as to when I am buying Bitcoin on the channel and of course in my private community. But if you want to know exactly how I am currently trading the market at this point in time with tight stop losses and invalidations trying to short the top, well, you do have that first link in the description down below. All you have to do is click the first link here and it'll bring you to my free Telegram. If you DM me the keyword premium, you will be onboarded into my free premium group. You'll get some details. Essentially, the only requirement is that you've signed up with one of my affiliate exchange links. And of course, you start trading on there as you normally would. Once you do that, you can get access to the group where I share all of my own insights every single day. Now, little caveat here. This isn't a group where I'm just spamming signals every single day. I know you've probably been in some of those groups. These are my own personal trade setups. There's a couple weeks there where I simply don't enter a new trade if I don't see that the opportunities are presenting themselves. So all of these trades, win or lose, are my own personal trades backed up with my own capital. If that sounds interesting, you do have the first link in my description down below. Now, the stock market versus Bitcoin. This is something that we definitely need to address because you can see that for the first time in a while, as the stock market started trending down, Bitcoin started trending up. Now, I am personally a little bit scarred from this because the last time that this occurred, Bitcoin had an even more devastating correction. Is this the rotation or is Bitcoin just lagging behind? That is the question that we'll have to answer. Now, pre-market is currently green. Dow futures is a little bit down, but the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ is green. So if the stock market starts climbing up today, you would expect Bitcoin to continue climbing up and attacking that bull market support band. Remember, if we can get some nice weekly closes above the bull market support band, I will certainly pivot my stance in this market and I will shift my trading strategies. But at this point in time, just like when I longed from the lows, shorting around this zone when we get the signs of exhaustion is a good risk to reward setup. If I'm invalidated, I'm invalidated. Now, what I also wanted to show you is the liquidation heat map. We already know there's tons of liquidity below us. I've highlighted this several times, but liquidity is only very, very important when we are in a ranging environment because it acts as a magnet. Now that we broke out of this range, it doesn't mean that we just have to go ahead and grab all of the massive cluster of liquidity below $90,000. So while I am anticipating that we will be seeing a sharper correction for Bitcoin in the near term, we'll have to assess whether or not we can go ahead and grab that liquidity. Because if we go on the shorter time frames, you need to also understand that a lot of people have the same idea that I am portraying here, and that is to short Bitcoin, trying to catch the Pico top. The difference is I have pretty tight invalidations. I'll happily get stopped out at break even. I'll happily even lose a little bit of capital to try and get an excellent entry for Bitcoin. It doesn't make sense to just short here and then continue to add to your position. That is a surefire way to get wrecked. So what I typically do is I've been shorting, taking a little bit of profits, moving my stop to break even, then getting stopped out, so on, so forth. This is the exact same strategy that I essentially did for my most recent Bitcoin long from the lows, and naturally, you can see the result. I've been talking about this trade for months now because we haven't tapped into the 80K lows. My stop loss is at break even, I've secured most of the profits, and as a matter of fact, my target here is $98,000 to fully close this trade. So we'll have to see if we can get there, but at this point in time, Bitcoin is essentially just continuing to climb up. So on the shorter time frames, it would not surprise me if we do manage to grab this liquidity. This is a pretty big cluster. A lot of people are indeed trying to short. Now, the difference between this rally and the previous ones is this rally is very much spot driven. As I discussed at the beginning of the video, we saw around $1.6 billion worth of Bitcoin spot ETF inflows. This is pretty major, but if we don't get the continuation, we've seen time and time again how quickly price can reverse. Now, you also would like to see the Coinbase premium stay positive. Again, on the aggressive rally yesterday, we had a nice positive inflow. And if we start to see some severe redness in the market in terms of the Coinbase premium index, then naturally Bitcoin will be moving lower from here. Don't shoot the messenger. Now, some of you have also been asking me why I don't just wait for Bitcoin to tap into the bull market support band before entering shorts. Right around this level, as I said, the risk to reward is simply there, and I'm more than happy to get stopped out at break even if the price is to climb after I get my initial entry on Bitcoin. I'm still making little profits day by day, and eventually I will be catching the top. Now, the only concern that I have is people continuing to try to short here as well, because the more and more that people go ahead and short, and of course, a lot of these guys don't have tight stop losses, so they just get wiped out if the price moves higher, the more this would give us fuel to go ahead and move higher. And so if we start to see the price climbing and there aren't that many aggressive shorts, that may very well be the perfect opportunity. I know some of you are probably new to the crypto cycles, but something you also need to understand is the CME gap. Look, we have like a 95% hit rate with these CME gaps, and there is one that you need to pay attention to, which is all the way down to $88,000. Now again, this doesn't mean that we have to immediately reverse, but what it does mean is that it will likely get filled. And no, I don't think that 80K was the low. I don't think we're in a super cycle, and I think a lot of people will be surprised because at this point in time, there are tons of people calling for Bitcoin to just absolutely skyrocket to brand new all-time highs this year. If it happens, amazing. I will be selling some of my Bitcoin. But at this point in time, I have to be honest with you, it is not my base case. And the last thing I wanted to touch on in today's video is USDT dominance. You can see the inverse correlation here. If USDT dominance continues to dump here and we manage to tag its bull market support band, then naturally the Bitcoin rally can continue. However, if we slowly start to bottom out here, then the higher we go here, the more and more we will likely confirm that 80K was not the bottom. I know there's a lot of you that watch me for trading insights, some for spot insights. Either way, the moment that Bitcoin likely goes sub $80,000, I will begin slowly dollar cost averaging into the asset. Now, the reason I say this, even though I am expecting Bitcoin to go much lower than this, is because no one has a crystal ball. And so it just makes sense from a risk to reward perspective, although most of my cash would go into Bitcoin if, for example, we go sub 70K, sub 60K, because yes, that actually is possible. So let's see, how much higher can this rally go? Will Bitcoin just skyrocket past its bull market support band and get multiple weekly closes above there? If so, I am completely pivoting my stance in the market. But I just thought I'd make it abundantly clear as to what I am doing from a trading perspective, what I am doing from a spot perspective, and if you want more insights, as always, you do have that first link in the description down below. And that sums up today's quick video. Bitcoin is slowly climbing higher and people are getting euphoric. If we start to get those weekly closes above the bull market support band, then I am more than happy to pivot my stance in this market. But at this point in time, seeing as the trend is still very much down, I attribute this to a bearish retest. Only time will tell if this is the right approach. As always, I'm just being 100% honest with you as to what I think the market is currently doing. And if you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. I have my bluff and leveraging tutorial right here, and I'll see you in the next video.